So, Acharya ji, my question is regarding innocence and foolishness. How can differentiate like what that this is innocent and this is foolishness, and how will recognize that I'm not doing this as a innocent, I'm doing it as a foolishness, and how we can correct ourselves when we realize this.
Foolishness is when you are foolish and you yet want great things to happen to you. Innocence is when you are wise and you do not care about the things that will happen to you. The mark of the foolish person is that he will want to remain foolish. Else he couldn't have been foolish at this point, no? Foolishness is its own punishment. If a person has continued to remain foolish, it means he wants to be foolish. Else the first dose of punishment would have sufficed. He would have no more remained foolish. The foolish person is determined to remain foolish and yet wants lovely experiences for herself. I am foolish, but life will be great for me. Wonderful pleasures I am going to experience, even as I remain foolish. That's foolishness. To be innocent is to not to care. Beparwahi. I know myself and I don't care whether great or bad things happen. That's innocence. Hmm? You know, the word innocence in its etymology indicates a state of being untouched. Untouched. A kind of a purity, a sacredness, a virginity, innocence, untouched. Untouched by what? We're obviously not talking of the body here. Untouched by what? Untouched by the concern for tomorrow. Untouched by the concern for results. That's innocence. I don't bother about results because whatsoever needed to be decided on has already been decided. So my job is done. My day is closed. The shutters are down. I am no more dealing. That's innocence. That's innocence. Foolishness, in spite of having all kinds of shitty items in the shop, foolishness is about expecting a great experience with the customers and running up a great profit as well. The stuff that I have inside is all rotten. And yet I want to have a great experience with all the customers and also run up profits. That's foolishness. Wisdom, the deal is made, the job is done, the shutters are down. I do not care what happens next. That's innocence. Innocence does not care, and foolishness cannot stop caring. Just that both of them. Now, why this question? Why, first of all, do these two look alike in some respects? We need to address that. Why do innocence and foolishness look similar in some aspects? That's what we need to address. Because neither of them ever look like making profits. Foolishness does not make profits because it cannot. Innocence does not make profits because it cares not. And that's a mighty difference. Innocence is incapable of worrying about profits. And foolishness is incapable of making profits. Innocence has already made so much that it does not care to make any more. And foolishness is so rotten that in spite of all its desires, it can never make any profits. And because none of them appear like making profits, so to the unversed mind, they may probably look a bit similar. And that's where this question is coming from. What is the difference between the two? So it's a gradual ascension. First of all, you have to quit being foolish. Foolishness is about maintaining the rotten ego and yet expecting a great life. When you're no more foolish, when you are clever in the worldly sense, then you say, yes, I want to fleece my customers. I do want to make profits. And I now realize that for that to happen, my product has to be tasteful to them. So you do yourself up. You try to be better in the worldly way. That's cleverness. Foolishness is when you are not just rotten, you are very visibly rotten. Your rottenness is visible to everybody except you. That's foolishness. Cleverness is when you are still rotten, but at least to others you have managed to make it appear that you are no more rotten. That's cleverness. And in cleverness, you start making profits. But when you are clever, you realize that the profits don't suffice. There is not profits for profit's sake that you work. The profits that you want are ultimately for an inner fulfillment. That inner fulfillment was elusive when you were foolish, and it remains elusive even when you are clever. And then you ascend into wisdom. Foolishness, cleverness, wisdom. Wisdom takes a very, very hard look at itself and says that if all the profits that I want about the world are about fulfilling this one within, if all that I want from the world is for the sake of this one within, why shouldn't I focus exclusively on the one within? Because even if I take that route, the circuitous route, going to that one, collecting profits from him, bringing the profits back here, and then testing whether it gives some fulfillment, ultimately I am returning to myself. Why should I take this longer route? I'll look at myself. Wisdom looks at itself, and that's called self-knowledge. Self-knowledge. looking at itself, it discovers the very core of lack of fulfillment. Its discovery is its treatment, its healing, a final cure. The very problem that made you relate to the world in a profit-seeking way has gone. It was not for nothing that you had set up the shop. The shop exists to transact with the world. And you are transacting with the world to take care of a problem within. When you look at the problem within, the looking itself, provided it is honest enough, rigorous enough, the looking itself suffices to cure the problem. And if the problem is gone, what will the shop stand for now? What did the shop exist for? It existed to transact with the world, to take care of the problem within. Now the very motivation is gone. The central problem that necessitated all the arrangement is gone. So the shutters are pulled down. That's innocence. I don't need this shop anymore. That does not mean that you won't transact with the world anymore. I will, but not by way of a shop. A shop is give and take. Now it will be much more of give and only very little of take. In fact, I'll take only as much as is needed to give back tenfold. That's innocence. Now, innocence, you'll see again, will look like foolishness. Because in foolishness, you make no profits. And innocence also gives back tenfold. So obviously, innocence does not make any profits. Innocence is a non-profit venture. Foolishness is a for-profit company going bankrupt. You don't see any profits either way, but there is a great difference. You go and you found a company, but you are so damn foolish and inept at everything and anything. You flounder at all your operations and strategies. And you raise a huge debt. And finally, go under. Bankrupt. That's foolishness. Innocence is when you can make profits, but you don't care to. You still work very hard, probably harder than the for-profit concern, but you work so hard to give back tenfold. That's innocence. That these two will look similar to the clever mind. Because the clever mind is about making profits. The clever mind looks down at foolishness and sees no. It also looks up at innocence, and there also it sees no. So it thinks that probably these two they're not similar. Foolishness is like a robber trying to execute a robbery, a bank robbery, in his drunken state and returning starved and empty-handed. Instead of the bank, he probably entered a mortuary and tried to threaten everybody into submission. Give me all you have, else you will be lying dead within next 2 minutes. He addressed all the dead bodies. That's foolishness, no? This fellow will return empty-handed. Innocence is a billionaire who has so much that he goes out every day with a huge truckload of cash and returns every evening empty-handed. That's innocence. The common thing is both of them are seen returning empty-handed. But the commonness ends there. Nothing else is common.
Acharya, you spoke in length about innocence, which was very, thought-provoking and clarifying many of my doubts. However, I just want to, just confirm one thing, that innocence can only come when we have already made the choice in the right direction. Before that, there is no innocence, right?
Only when we have made
The choice in the right direction, like towards Atma or towards Ram.
it's a choice. Yeah. Continually you make that choice, yes.
And in that sense, in true sense, only a Atmajnani or a realized man is to be called an innocent, not
Yes,
us.
yes.
And when that doha says that tulsi bharose ram ke nirbhay hoke soye, so that
Yes,
means
yes, yes, that's innocence.
that's innocence.
That's innocence. Very well said. Yes. That's innocence. Which also means that the general kind of biological ignorance and cuteness, they are not to be conflated with innocence. The kid cannot be called as innocent. Krishna can be called as innocent.
Krishna Bodh Kabir Sahib.
And I'm not talking of Bal Krishna. I'm talking of the Krishna of the Bhagavad Gita. He is the one to be called as innocent. But the lok dharm, lok bhasha, the language of the commons, very distorted. So we look at a newborn or somebody and we say, oh, such an innocent one. They are not innocent. They are just doing their biological bit. And innocence is not biological. It's just by virtue of biology that they belong to a certain age and hence are displaying certain behavior. Once they exceed that age, they'll not display that behavior.
They'll become
Now,
clever.
innocence is not biological.
Right.
Innocence is not age bound.
It's a choice, basically.
It's a choice. It's a choice of the elevated consciousness. Right? So no kid can be ever innocent. Only the one who has had the courage to confront himself is innocent.
Right. Got it. Thank you, Acharya ji.
Yeah.